Like the Hopi said, we've reached the end of this fourth world. The red and blue Kachina has already arrived, and that was Three-Eye Atlas. This is the time of reckoning, of awakening of mankind to realize and see behind the veil as to what's really going on, and that's exactly what's happening. The human mind connects to up to 11 dimensions. Consciousness is not created in the brain. The brain is downloading a stream of consciousness. Human beings are not from Earth. We're aliens on this planet. The Black Knight satellite, this is way more advanced technology than we have even today. These beings are here. They have been abducting people off the streets of America and trying to do a hybridization program with them. There's this area inside of the Boas constellation. According to Michio Kaku, it appears to be a cloaked advanced civilization. Mars is still inhabited till this very day. They're very small people. When you look at some of these images, you catch some of them looking at the camera.
You recently spoke about Trump's UFO comments and the politics of disclosure. Are we witnessing genuine disclosure, controlled disclosure, or the weaponization of disclosure?
I wish it was the first one.
Who are some of your biggest mentors?
I would say Dr. Michael V. Roberts. He's probably worth about $4 billion. He built himself up from nothing, became a great businessman, but is also conscious and has a great heart and really wants to help humanity. Robert Edward Grant, very good friend of mine, very, very good friend. We've traveled the world together, him and I. I had a very special event a few years ago. Only 14 people were invited. He was one of them. He was there with me. And I've gone on explorations with him privately as well. And a lot of people don't know he's a multi-billionaire. He's the founder of Bausch and Lomb, Alphion Credit, and so many other major pharmaceutical type companies. He owns patents in pharmaceuticals, and but he's really conscious. He's a follow math. He's a phenomenal teacher, and he's a great mentor. And I've learned a lot from just being around him. And just so many more. We keep bringing these people on that have these the ability to tap into the metaphysics, the ancient knowledge, the wisdom teachings, the entrepreneurship, and the financial literacy at the same time, and that's key.
That is key. That's very well-rounded.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot going on in the world right now. Would love to hear your take on the war. Is there any bigger meaning behind what's going on right now? It seems like we're kind of stuck and trapped by this, like 1% of people, less than 1% that rule the world. Like, can we escape it? You know?
Yeah, we have to escape it. It takes me to one of those Yoda quotes. We must do. There is no try. We have
Right.
to, force this escape because these people they realize that they're coming to the end of their age. And we see this going back in so many ancient texts, tablets, papyruses, cylinder scrolls, scriptures, and everything else you can look at. When a particular ruler or rulers or oligarchs or elites or whatever you want to call them, kings, pharaohs, whatever, when they're coming to the end of an age, there's always this kicking and screaming on the way out. There have even been former rulers that have started wars at the end of their reign just to what? Extend their reign. One of the most famous ones was Amun-Ra from the ancient Egyptian epic, where he again had a war, an extended war to try to extend his reign. And so we see this prevalent. It's like they almost study this workbook of how to rule over a planet,
Yeah.
And this 1%, they're really hell-bent on trying to hold on. But like the Hopi said, we're coming to the end, we've reached the end of this fourth world. The red and blue Kachina has already arrived and has already been seen by all eyes in the sky, and that was Three-Eye Atlas. As it approached, it turned red, bright, bright red, and that was the sign of the red Kachina. And then as it left and it went to perigee around the sun, it turned bright, bright, bright blue on its way out. So the red and blue Kachina have arrived, and according to the Hopi prophecy, this is the time, number one, of reckoning, of awakening of mankind to realize and see behind the veil as to what's really going on. And that's exactly what's happening. The Epstein wars are happening. The elites are going back and forth. They're pillaging and trying to scrape and scrap for the last resources on the planet. Meanwhile, the people who have been divided and conquered for so long are finally waking up and seeing the truth, the true reality behind what they're all about. And that's a huge part of growth and the escape that we need to make from this situation is awareness. And so the red kachina has brought us awareness. The blue kachina is going to allow us to enter into this fifth world, as it now is the age of Aquarius, because now the blue kachina is talking about transformation. As that object went around the backside of the sun, the SOHO satellite sent back an image to Earth. It was a megalithic butterfly ripped open. The corona, the exterior of the sun had kind of opened up or cooled off in a weird way, where it looked and appeared like a gigantic butterfly. And that's the symbol of transformation, be going from a caterpillar into a butterfly. So we're heading into this era of this transformation where not only have we brought awareness, not only do we realize that we need to come together more than ever, we also realize that we need collaboration over competition and no more of this divide and conquer stuff, no more left wing, right wing, and all these things. It's all about now, how do we come together? How do we save and take back control of this planet and move into this new fifth world with positivity? Because in the Hopi prophecy, it says that mankind will be responsible for the consequences of its choices going into this fifth age. So it's upon us right now.
So much I want to dive into from that. Would you say this fifth world is like what they describe as the new Earth?
It's the new earth, but not in a sense as if we're, changing dimensions. The human mind connects to up to 11 dimensions, although as human beings on this planet and in this third dimension, we're only perceiving and understanding or thinking that we're only connecting to whatever we can see, hear, taste, smell, feel, and everything else, our sensory perception system. But the mind is actually multidimensional. Consciousness is not created in the brain. The brain is downloading a stream of consciousness. And so, because we're connected to these higher realms, we are able to perceive, think, act, and do things once we're aware of it from a different understanding, a different perspective. So, the transformation is a transformation of the mind.
Hmm.
And that allows this world to become the new world. It's still going to be in the third dimension. It's still going to be a solid, plane of existence. But our minds are going to be so transformed. We're going to become aware that we are truly powerful, multidimensional beings, and we're going to be aware of all of our interconnectedness, not only through Earth and here, but also throughout the entire known universe.
So how does the that 1% eventually fade off? Is it going to be through war? Is it going to
Mhm.
be through a revolution?
It's going to be through literal awakeness of the population and putting things in place to never allow these types of situations to happen again. For example, in this current state of affairs, we're going to see within the next 3 to 5 years, I guarantee you this, we will see war crimes trials. They're bringing back Nuremberg. We will see people convicted of war crimes. The main culprit by then might not be around just because of age, but the others, most of them will be here. And a lot of the people that took actions out in the field, some of them will also face these war crimes trials. There will also be a third party group put together with a special group of attorneys that will oversee and have oversight over decisions being made that could threaten humanity in a negative way, that could topple GDPs of entire countries, including our own, and things like that. And there will be a third party oversight committee that will be created, and also a third party prosecution team that will be created that won't have any connection to any particular influence of red or blue whatsoever. There are going to be safeguards implemented and put in place, not only in America, but we'll start to see those put in all over the world.
That's exciting. Um, the Heart Coherence Collaborative, one thing we do is we let our group submit questions to ask. So I
Mhm.
have some questions from our group members that I think are great
Okay.
questions. You recently spoke about Trump's UFO comments and the politics of disclosure. Are we witnessing genuine disclosure, controlled disclosure, or the weaponization of disclosure?
We're witnessing extremely controlled disclosure and the weaponization of disclosure, unfortunately. I wish it was the first one.
Yeah, right, right.
I've been waiting for that for so long, man, since I've been waiting for that since for decades. But unfortunately, they want to control that narrative because that narrative gives them control over the technology. It gives them the ability to do things with no congressional oversight. It gives them the ability to siphon money from other governmental budgets and transfer them into these black budget programs, and then have them issue contracts to private corporations to hide from the American people exactly what's going on, because we can't put a FOIA request in when they do that. And what are they doing there? Well, they are, according to Grush and Gates and everyone else, they are in some way in possession of these non-human vehicles and potentially non-human entities. And in some way, as Michael Schratt, the aerospace historian, has talked about many times in documentaries, they seem to be reverse engineering some of this technology. I really do believe that they have access and have some of these downcraft, and that they may be reverse engineering that technology to monetize it. I've done many TV shows. I think I was on American Mystery on the Travel Channel. We talked about extensively the Roswell incident in 1947. Most people don't know two UFOs came down that day, not one, two.
Wow.
We only talk about the one, but two came down. How did they come down? Well, the military was using a special type of radar called scalar. And this scalar, they had detected, testing it on our own stuff, that it disoriented our own airplanes navigation. That was bare bones basic nav, so they didn't think it would affect a UFO, but they pointed it there anyway. And in some way, it definitely affected the navigation systems of these two craft that they both came down. And that was the beginning of understanding, oh, we might be able to bring some of these down. And then, of course, the story ends where they capture these devices, and they begin to reverse engineer. We got Velcro from that, fiber optic cables. We have microchips came from that.
Hmm.
So many little bits of technology that have been, drizzled down to the general population over time, weaponized also and monetized, have come from this reverse engineering. They also have created what we call ARVs, alien reproduction vehicles. We have things that exist like the TR-3B, which is ours. Most of what we see in the sky that we think are alien are actually made by us.
Wow. Now, is there anything from history that you find fascinating that you don't share as much about?
Um, there's just so much that I've talked about. What
Yeah.
things do I not share too much? I talked about what's in the Vatican quite a bit, but not extensively as to what is really lurking down there. I've got an opportunity, believe it or not, and I'm going to find out tomorrow morning at 9:15 a.m. Eastern time if this person that I'm connected with now can get me down inside the Vatican archives. We're going to see if we can make that happen. I don't know if I'll be able to record anything or not. It'll be the first conversation that I'm having on the topic. But down there are major rumors to be one-off works of art, one-off books that talk about the ancients and the ancient technologies that actually existed, spacefaring races. Also, bodies, non-human bodies, the bones, the skeletons are supposedly down there, and many other incredible works, amazing feats and works of art and technology from human beings that they wanted to obfuscate and keep suppressed from the general population because they didn't want us to advance too fast. And a lot of that stuff is down there. There's two parts of the archive. The one part that's kind of cataloged partially for only certain people to get down there. And then there's a part behind that for people with higher levels of clearance. And that goes on for about 5 miles underneath the Vatican.
Wow. That is mind blowing. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Um, we hear a lot of different predictions on open contact. Do you have any frame of mind on when you think it'll actually happen?
Wow. Open contact is pretty incredible. I think that open contact will happen when mankind grows up. Last night on a podcast that I did, I think it was last night or maybe it was yesterday. I do so many. But I believe that we're being watched on three fronts. We're being watched, first of all, we're being watched by the earth itself, because I personally believe that the earth has enough connections that it's actually conscious. The earth is connected by the roots, the soil, the oil, which is the blood of the earth, the amniotic fluid, the crystals inside the earth, and all the other gems that are there, along with the mycelial network created by all of the mold and the fungus and the mushrooms. this earth is interconnected, kind of like the Avatar movie. And I believe the earth itself has been very gracious and very empathetic, giving us an opportunity and a chance to correct our ways, because all the earth has to do is shake its shoulder and we're done. We're just ticks on the skin. Then we're also being watched by these other people. I call them the Watchers. Well, the text calls them the Watchers. They may be humanoid. Maybe they are our cousins. Maybe they're this galactic race of people. But I do believe that they're watching us, and they're not intervening at this moment because they're waiting to see how are we gonna overcome this situation where we have 8 billion people being controlled by less than 100 families. They're waiting to see when mankind is going to grow up. Right now, we look like a baby that's trying to crawl,
Mm.
but they're waiting to see, will we grab onto the edge of a table and pull ourselves up and start taking some steps. And when we learn how to control our fall, I think that's when we'll see open contact, because the definition of walking is learning how to control your fall. And I think that's what they're waiting for. Until we can learn how to walk, we don't have to learn how to run, but if we can learn how to walk, I believe we'll see open contact. And that means we've taken back control of our planet, control of these different matrices that they've put on us. And we've maybe not hit a golden age yet, but are well on our way back to a golden age.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy to think like 20 years ago, if USA was going to war, it seems like the country would probably rally around that and support it, think it's for the best. This time, I don't know really anybody that's supporting it. And so I think we're ready. We're ready for it, the
Yeah.
the awakening. We just got to figure out how to break through.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is the public outcry is really important. There are people out there that feel the same way you and I do, but they think their voice doesn't matter. Every individual voice matters. I don't care if you got 10 followers or 100 million followers. The biggest way we can make noise right now is socially, you know, and everyone should be making some type of a statement. It doesn't have to be aggressively negative or nasty, but we should all be stating our distrust and our our emotion, our feeling about what's happening and how it's happening, and the fact that we don't want to be in collusion or any kind of participation with these actions.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really important. I don't think we need to run through the streets holding up picket signs and rioting and tearing down the cities. But I do think that our voices can literally be heard loud enough just through social media, and that distaste is going to then um, kind of mold who is next in local office and who's next in state office, who's next in regional office, and those minds are going to be um, kind of transformed toward what the people want, because they're going to want to get voted in. And I think that's going to be the beginning of implementation of new systems being put in place to prevent and overt something like this from ever happening again. We're on the verge of potentially getting into runaway inflation if this thing escalates one more level or two more levels. We can enter into very just America, nobody else, by the way, just us. We can enter a very we can lead, we can get into we have to stop this before it happens, and I'm not sure how we can stop it today at this exact moment within a few hours. Maybe it's a mass meditation, maybe it's something, but we have to
Mm.
get a message to these soldiers. They need to stand down.
Yeah.
Hundreds have already stood down. The American press won't tell you that, but hundreds have already stood down. Some lit their vessel on fire so they wouldn't have to go to war. 13 generals have already been kicked out. A lot of them are saying, no, we don't want any part of this, which is good, but we need more, because the only people that can actually do this are the people that take the orders, because the people giving the orders are sitting in fancy offices, gilded offices in $10,000 suits, but all they can do is actually speak. Someone has to take that frequency and put it in their brain and process it and then act on it. And so if you take in that command and just simply say no, and everyone does that, then nothing actually happens. And so we have to, as a people, get to that point where the people that are sent out to protect us realize when they're committing an egregious act and a war crime, and have an option in their own brain a switch that tells them this isn't right and I shouldn't do it.
Our mission here at the Heart Coherence Collaborative is to get people in touch with the healing power of the heart.
And we really need your help. Right now, only 1% of viewers subscribe. We are aiming to take that number to 6%.
The reason why we want to do that is the more people that subscribe, the more people in the world can learn the magical practice of heart coherence.
So please help us out. If you ever listened, if you love this message, please just take a moment to subscribe.
Thank you so much. We love you.
We love you.
You know, you hear like Joe Kent and even celebrities like Theo Vaughn and Joe Rogan are starting to speak up.
Yeah.
But then there have been people that really spoke up who've been killed. So there's like this, it's like I feel like people are speaking up, but they're trying to walk like the tightrope. Then there's people just fully speaking up, but there is that threat,
Mhm.
But
Yeah, I think, when everybody gets involved, it
yeah,
makes it harder to isolate any one person.
right.
Oh, we took this person out. Well, everyone's still talking about it. So
Yeah.
all of a sudden, it's like it makes no sense to take this person out anymore.
Right, right.
Like we're isolating people from the Epstein files. Now who do we get for the Epstein? Everybody's talking about the. So when the masses get involved, it's like, oh well, just, you know. And so what they do is get rid of Pam Bondi so she doesn't have to testify under oath before Congress in a few weeks, and replace another puppet in there. And so it's unfortunate, man, but we really have to, as a people, because these people were put in place to serve us.
Yeah. Right.
They are our servants. Which is the craziest thing. Our servants have run roughshod over the planet. We have lost control of our own servants. They are public servants, nothing more. And in some strange way, through our acquiescing and our collaboration and participation, we have allowed that rope inch to get longer and longer and longer. And now they're all the way out there and doing whatever they want. They've even created their own installation laws to protect them from us. Because I've been really looking up a lot of laws lately and trying to find out what can be done collectively, even just here in the United States. Can we all file lawsuits against them, criminally, civilly? What can we do? And they've really insulated themselves from a lot of stuff, a lot of damage. But one thing they can't insulate from are war crimes, and those have already been committed as they have been blowing up universities, schools, hospitals, and also assassinating directly some of the top scientists and teachers in their homes over there. And those are absolute, definite war crimes.
Wow. I think you're
Yeah,
spot on, though. There's going to be a point where the military is just like, no, we're not doing this.
yeah,
We're
they have to
stepping
come to
down.
that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One question that we received that I don't know too much about from the community is what do you make of things like Black Knight satellite? Are there objects in orbit we don't fully understand? Could you explain too just Black Knight satellite for anyone that doesn't know, like myself?
Great question. The Black Knight satellite is an object that is orbiting the Earth right now in a polar orbit, although it has shifted its orbit a couple of times. It's approximately around 15 tons, according to NASA and the Russian space agencies. They've actually kind of estimated the weight. They've scanned it. STS-88 was a space shuttle mission that took great HD photos of it, and they placed them on nasa.gov. They called it space junk. Now, this thing is so big and so massive and so scary because it appears to be under intelligent control because it's changed its orbit a couple times, which rocks don't do, obviously. It looks technological, and America thought Russia put it there, and Russia thought we put it there, so it almost triggered an actual war.
Wow.
When I started researching the Black Knight satellite, the first thing I wanted to find out was, has anyone tested it for any type of a frequency? And come to find out, Nikola Tesla picked up a frequency from this thing in the early 1900s. Initially, he thought it was coming maybe from Mars. Ended up, it was this object orbiting Earth. Then in 1957 and 58, ham radio operators picked up a signal from this thing and they began to log the codes. It was this repeated signal, this repeated frequency. In 1960, an astronomer actually mapped out the frequency and created a pattern. That pattern was a star system and a constellation. And he actually made Time magazine in 1960. So this Black Knight satellite made Time magazine. And what was interesting is the frequency was giving up the location of a constellation named Epsilon Boötis, or the Boötis constellation, where the Epsilon star is located.
Hmm.
And so when I found that out, I was like, wow. Going back to the ancient texts and stuff that I study, I just went and did a very general Google search because I had nowhere to start. I didn't know where to start. And I said, because I know that in ancient times, some of these Sumerian gods, they owned planets, moons. And so I said, who owns Boötis? And right away, the answer popped up and the link to the tablet and everything else. Enlil, the ancient Sumerian god named Enlil, owned Boötis. So I started researching extensively the Boötis constellation, and I discovered something called the Boötis Void. Now, the Boötis Void, Michio Kaku talked about this on mainstream TV and science shows over the years. There's this area inside of the Boötis constellation, which is light years across, that appears to have not even any space dust in it. And it appears, according to Michio Kaku, it appears to be a cloaked, advanced civilization, which blew me away. So I started digging even deeper into this, and I discovered that this object, not only is it giving up the Boötis constellation and the star Epsilon, but it's also giving it up where it was in position in the precession of the equinox in our skies 13,000 years ago. So potentially, hypothetically, according to that alignment, this thing might be 13,000 years old. And what happened 13,000 years ago? We had the Younger Dryas incident, where this massive object crashed right above Syria, melted a huge ice sheet, and partially globally flooded most of the planet, and completely put Egypt underwater. So it's incredible that that thing would be there around that time. Could it be that these Anunnaki or these Anuna, according to the ancient text, that they fled at that time and dropped a satellite in orbit to watch over us? And I talked to an astrophysicist, and I talked to him about, who works for the government, by the way. He has government Pentagon contracts. How could an object like this communicate over light years distance to Boötis if it needed to? He said through quantum entanglement. They may be able to quantum entangle the data feed, and send it over vast distances, maybe almost instantaneously. So these people or these beings or whatever they are from Boötis could be in a cloaked advanced civilization. They could still be watching us today. And this object is still up there because they're afraid to touch it, because you don't know, if you touch something like that, what is this defense mechanism? Is it going to ET going to call home and send the troops?
Yeah.
So you just leave it alone. And it's been left alone and it's still there. We couldn't put any object into a polar orbit like this thing has been doing since the 1900s. We couldn't do that. I think it was until the 1970s or late 1970s. So this is way more advanced technology than we have even today. But it's been nicknamed the Black Knight Satellite. I did a whole documentary on this, which got 3 awards.
Wow.
It's called Black Knight Satellite: The Untold Story.
Wow.
It's on my TV app.
That's cool. Yeah, quantum entanglement's a powerful tool.
Yeah.
So another question from the group: what do we actually know, or what have you come across about potential life or beings on Mars?
Oh man, great question there again. Wow. I started researching Mars in 2000. I guess that was 2010 technically. And I started coming across very strange anomalies. Initially, it was just me by myself. I didn't know that other people were tapped into this information for a little while. And then I started finding people on Facebook that were also looking at these same Mars images through the gigapans, through the worldwide telescope technology that exists for all public access. And we ended up coming together and forming a group called the United Family of Anomaly Hunters. And it's 14 groups. And in those groups, we post all these anomalies, and we access them, we analyze them, we run them by each other to see if we think they're authenticated anomalies or not. Sometimes they are, sometimes we don't. We just vote them down. What we've discovered now, after downloading over 1 million images, about 60,000 anomalies, things that are out of place in these images that are really from Mars, objects that look like destructed buildings and structures, technological devices of some sort. Can't really make them out. These look like broken devices. Statues that have been toppled over. There's many of them. A lot of this has made Ancient Aliens on History Channel, CNN, Huffington Post, NBC, Fox. All of them have featured a lot of our work over the years, and the anomalies just keep on coming. And in my personal opinion, Mars is still inhabited till this very day. I believe that there are a small remnant of some survivors. These people appear to be very, very small. And why I think this, before people go, he's crazy, they're very small people. And when you look at some of these images, you catch some of them looking at the camera. Statues don't turn and look. These are very strange anomalies. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. I'm not there. But if the hypothesis is right, when you analyze Mars's data in terms of the REMS unit, the ground data, and even the Mars Global Surveyor data, we find out that Mars has 3 magnetic fields. At first, they said none. Now there's 3 localized magnetic fields. Mars spends 23 and a half hours on its axis to make one day. And it also moves around the sun at a very good speed, which means it's creating something called bow shock. The combination of both of those movements creates bow shock, keeps the radiation from penetrating to the lower atmosphere and touching the ground, so DNA can actually survive on the surface. They've also discovered a lot of methane in the atmosphere, which is produced usually on Earth by life, and an excessive amount of oxygen that keeps getting produced from the surface. Some is escaping into space, but more is being produced at the surface. So they have carbon monoxide, they have oxygen, they have methane, magnetic fields. All of a sudden now they started saying that the soil, official press release, the soil on Mars is better for growing crops than the soil on Earth. Well, how do they know this? So all this is beginning to come out little by little as they're warming us up to the fact that they're going to obviously build a breakaway civilization on Mars. But my personal belief that they've already started. They meaning some oligarchs, some private sect of maybe the military-industrial complex or secret space program. I believe they may be there already. The only thing I have a fear about is why they're keeping it secret. I think that we might be the new Christopher Columbuses on Mars. That's my personal opinion.
Wow, that is
Yeah.
fascinating. When you study Egypt and Atlantis, what did they understand about consciousness and human potential that we've lost?
Oh, wow. They understood a lot. So ancient Egypt, we're talking pre-dynastic. Now we're talking ancient Kemet. And we're talking about Thoth, the Atlantean priest king. He ruled over the land of ancient Kemet. Now, he called himself an Atlantean priest king. It's the guy with this face right here. This is one of my books,
Nice.
The Compendium of the Emerald Tablets. He's got the head of an ibis bird, although that really is a mask. He has a face of a man. But they depict him with the ibis beak because the ibis bird has to put its beak deep into the mud to bring up sustenance. So it's a metaphor for bringing darkness to light. And he was the educator. He was the person who went around and taught people how to think. That's where the word thought comes from. It comes from the name Thoth. He was the first intelligencer according to the ancient text. And he went around teaching alchemy in Kemet and chemistry in Kemet. But he also went all around the world teaching all this information. And what's incredible is he says Atlantis. He was an Atlantean priest king. Ancient Egypt says he ruled over them for 16,000 years, one man. He claims to have this device underground, underneath the pyramid, called the Halls of Amenti. And we know that through the synthetic aperture radar scan that was just done by Filippo Biondi and Armando May, they discovered this humongous area right beneath the pyramids. And they discovered it beneath the Giza Plateau, and it goes on for miles. And there is a LiDAR scan that was done showing that energy is still moving. Now, what's incredible about that just happened last year, made international news, and is still buzzing everywhere. But on page 34 of my book that I wrote 8 years ago,
Yeah.
I depict the Giza Plateau, and I depict columns, which is exactly what they discovered, going down beneath the plateau, and I said that they go on for miles, leading to the Halls of Amenti, and you can fit 6 Burj Khalifas down there. And I was right, and I wrote that book 8 years ago. So
Wow.
there's science vindicated my research and my hypothesis. But they knew a lot about consciousness because Thoth was teaching both. He was teaching that mankind's birthright is to be the light and seek the light. And the basis of all spirituality and understanding, and even that branched off later into religions, comes from his ancient teachings that he wrote over 36 to 40,000 years ago. And because he was from Atlantis and then started working in Chem, why? Well, Kemet, there was a great flood. The great flood swept over the land because in the opening verses of the Emerald Tablets, he says he sees the temples coming up out of the mud and the rushing waters have stopped. So he gets into the great ship of the master and he takes off into the sky until the earth disappears. And when he comes down over the land of Kemet, he sees the people beneath him. So he's not in a boat. He's in something that can fly. And so now he came from Atlantis, but now he's coming to help. At that time, he says, rebuild Kemet and bring it back up to a high level of civilization. In other words, it was already a high level prior to this flood, but now he's going to help bring it back to the high level. But they combine spiritual technology along with understanding and alchemy, and they combine those two things together. So they understood spirituality and science were to collaborate. And in this age, we think that they're separate, but they're not.
It's got to be really cool, to write this book and predict something 8 years ago and then have it validated. That's got to be like, yeah.
That was great, man. It was great. It was incredible. Yeah, that was an incredible feeling.
That's
Yeah.
cool. You've spoken about the idea that humans may have been genetically modified by the Anunnaki, possibly even limiting our lifespan. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so you look into the text called the Epic of Atrahasis. And in the Epic of, which is located in the British Museum, if anybody wants to go see it with their own eyes and so forth, you can also buy the Epic of Atrahasis on Amazon and read the book. It's been translated many, many years ago. And in there, they talk about this war that was getting ready to happen, where the Ijiji, the working class Anunnaki, were getting ready to go to war against the kings of Earth. Because they were doing work, and guess where they were working? They were working on Mars. And they were complaining about the labor, they were complaining about the thin atmosphere, they were complaining about the working conditions and the amount of extensive hours they had to work. And they were saying, look, we're not slaves. We're workers, but we're not slaves. And they felt like they were being enslaved. And their cries were going unheard. So they said, okay, all right. And so this is where the sons of God, Anu was the head god, but really was the leader. The sons of God, fell from heaven. They came down from Mars to Earth and went to battle. They were going to go to battle. But they met in a place in South Africa called Adam's Calendar, the same place where they found the very first evidence of gold mines, about 200,000 years old. And they encircled the campus of the leaders there, Enki, Enlil, and Anu. And then to stop the war, Enki had an idea. He says, I have an idea. There's an existing being on this planet. He's talking about our cousins now. There were hominids clearly already here. So they didn't make us from scratch. He said we can add our essence to it and get it to bear the load. So what he was saying was we can genetically tinker with these people, deprogram, reprogram, whatever their idea or concept was. And then we can get them to take our instruction. We can train them and teach them, and they'll do the labor. They'll clean out the Tigris and Euphrates River. They'll build the canals and everything else. And you guys can take a little break or oversee them. And it was agreed. And so they slayed a god with the being and all this, metaphysical type stuff. What it boils down to is they genetically modified us. Now, where it comes to the age thing, because initially we were living for hundreds and sometimes thousands of years. There was an incident in the text, in the Akkadian version of the text, where Enlil, he's gone from the city. These people travel probably, who knows, from planet to planet. Who knows what they're capable of doing. But he's gone for some time. And while he's gone, before he left, he built this tower called the Du-Ran Key. Now he's gone. The people saw this tower. It's called a bond heaven-earth, this communications tower. They began to build one together. So they got into collaboration and effort. They reproduced this thing, and they were going to put a Shem on top. Some say that means rocket. Some say that means something else. But they were about to top this thing with some technological object when Enlil returns. Enlil sees this, he gets disgusted. By the way, this story made it into the biblical text. It's a parallel version of this story, the Tower of Babel. And that in that story, Enlil is Yahweh. And he gets so angry because he realizes that human beings can work together and can accomplish great things just as great as they can. And he says, that's it. My seed shall not abide in man forever. His years shall be 120. That paralleled into the biblical text as well. And at that point, we can only assume now that he did some type of a genetic tinkering, because Harvard scientists and geneticists say that the maximum lifespan of a human under the most pristine condition is 120 years. Isn't that something? Modern science perfectly matching this genetic modification that we can find in the Bible and also ancient Sumerian text. So there was something done. They called it an artificial mutation because they don't know what else to call it. Artificial mutation? Somebody took chromosome number 2 out, fused it together, and put 2 telomere caps on it. Geneticists are saying that can't be done in the short time frame that we've actually been alive in terms of existence. We would have needed a 2 to 3 million more years for that type of a natural evolution to occur. And so they call it an artificial mutation. Well, we know it's artificial because it's in the text. They said they did this to us. And then they separated the people and they confused their languages. So all of a sudden, I can't communicate with this guy or that person because why? I don't understand the language anymore. I don't think it happened instantaneously. I think they were moved around into different regions and then taught to speak and forced to speak different languages. By the second, third generation, that's the language. And this was, again, part of the massive divide and conquer tactic to keep people separated, because then you can compartmentalize them and they can't all collaborate together. And then you keep infusing more divide and conquer. I'm this color, you're that color. I have this money, you don't have that kind of money. I'm this politician color and you're this politician color. I'm this religion, you're the. So they kept all this brewing amongst us while they kept chopping up the pie at the top.
Wow. That is just truly mind-blowing. Now the hybrid programs that go on today, do you know anything about those?
Oh, yeah. Well, Tom Gates just came out, former congressman, and also Tim Burchett, who I've been in documentaries with Representative Tim Burchett. He's been very outspoken, and he said, "Put me on a lie detector test." He was just on TMZ yesterday. He told TMZ, "Put me on a lie detector test." National TV, because he says that these beings are here. We are in possession of some of them. I guess they have some of them as prisoners, or maybe they're co-working with some of them. But Gates was saying that they have been abducting, according to him. These are not my words. They have been abducting people off the streets of America, probably homeless people, most likely would make the most sense, and trying to do a hybridization program with them and some of these beings that these non-human entities. And so this sounds bizarre, but after some of the things that I've researched over the years for TV shows and what the government have done to people, releasing radiation on us, they've poisoned us, they poisoned the air, they poisoned food, they've tested chemicals on us, they've tested drugs on us. They told the Tuskegee Airmen they were giving them medicine, they were giving them syphilis. I mean, they've done crazy things.
Yeah.
So this wouldn't surprise me that it could be true. And again, Tim Burchett confirms, and he says, there's non-human entities, there's beings here that aren't from Earth. Their craft are here, they're not from Earth. And he said the other day in a statement that if the American people knew the true totality of what I know, this entire civilization would break down. I was like,
Wow.
whoa. I posted that on my social media.
Nice. Another question from the group. What is your perspective on the story of Adam and Eve? Symbolic, historical, or something else?
I think it's a true story. I don't think we've gotten the true story, but I think they definitely existed. Now, one thing I can tell you just from doing basic genetic studies when I took chemistry and biology in school, you're not going to get 8 billion people from 2 people. And that's what we're taught religiously. And I kind of chuckle when I see a scientist then believe this story as if 2 people created 8 billion, knowing that in their laboratory setting, they need genetic diversity to, to make a population of anything. If you're going to make a population of dogs,
Right. Right.
rabbits, whatever,
Mhm.
if you keep mating the same two and then their offspring, you're going to have genetic deformities. It's just what happens. You know, you can take 40 people to an island and you can leave and come back and there'll be a blossoming civilization there. But if you drop two people off on an island and you leave and come back, you're going to find about six graves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
It's just
Right.
a fact.
Yeah.
There's no way around it. So the story's been altered and skewed, or this perception of what happened there. There were people here before Adam and Eve. Human beings were created twice. And you can even see that if you carefully read Genesis, carefully, you detect the part where all of a sudden, then people were created again. Interesting. So Adam and Eve had Cain and Abel. Cain kills Abel. Cain gets caught by Yahweh, aka Enlil, and then Cain says, God said, "I'm gonna throw you out." So he says, "Well, if you kick me out of here, the people out there will kill me." What people? There were already plenty of people here long before Adam and Eve even existed. When you start digging into some of the ancient tablets and the Sumerian tablets and the Babylonian tablets, you start seeing kind of parallels between the storyline, and you begin to see that there was this Eden, Edin, and it was more like an outdoor laboratory setting with stalls, and these Adams, there were more than one, had set mating periods to cross mate with these Eves or these women. And if you made it out of turn or got caught, fraternizing, whatever, you'd get in trouble and punished. It was that severe. And in the book of Adam, he actually is so distraught that he was awakened by the snake. The snake was actually Enki. Enki came and gave them some real wisdom and knowledge and awakened, gave them awareness that they weren't animals, that they were actually sentient beings like them. That was what the apple was. It was knowledge. And once they got that knowledge, they became aware. And that's when his brother Enlil detected it, aka Yahweh or God in the Bible. When they were tossed out, you read the book of Adam, which is one of the Apocrypha texts that's kept out of the Bible. He's so distraught. He's crying and wailing. He's in the waters right outside the gates. As they're passing through the gates and getting kicked out, the guards have weapons. Why would you need guards with weapons at a garden?
Right.
And then he tries to unalive himself in the water. He tries to drown himself. And one of the guards comes over and grabs him with one arm and pulls him out, stop him from unaliving himself. So this story is so grand, but they were just two of probably hundreds of thousands of people that existed. The reason why his story is so special is because in the British Museum, again, there's a cylinder scroll where you see Isis holding up Adam. She says, "My hands have created it." They were struggling to reproduce a perfect version of a hominid, Homo sapien, I guess, that can reproduce consistently and become the worker bees. So she got frustrated with their mating attempts that they were doing experimentally with others, and she took the egg out of one of the women, the hominids. She added her essence, or they added their essence to this egg. She put it in her womb. Now we're talking about making a zygote in modern science. She took it to term for 10 months, not 9, and she gave birth to the Adamu. And that starts the generations of Isis, the Genesis. Genesis are the generations of Isis.
My mind keeps getting blown. What do ancient texts tell us about Jesus that most people may not fully understand?
Well, it tells us that Jesus was here. He was real. He was a very powerful person. Why? Because in a time where most people had zero awareness to who they truly were and the power that they truly had inside of them and the awareness and consciousness and spirituality, he came to bring and awaken people to that knowledge. He came to bring the Christ consciousness. That's the first coming wave of the Christ consciousness. And he came to awaken people to that understanding. And that's why he told the people, he said, you don't understand. The kingdom of heaven is inside of you. He said it's inside of you. He also said, "Ye are gods, and you are to do greater things than me." So you begin to go, "Wow." He's saying that this guy is like an ascended master. He's trained according to the Gospel of Holy 12. He's trained in the ancient mystery schools when he was a young child living in Egypt. I take people to see his house in Egypt all the time. He then goes on a journey into Tibet. He understands, he begins to learn Reiki and healing with his hands and energy movement and all that. Then he goes down into India. He's learning the mystic arts and he's getting all this wisdom and knowledge. And he comes back like a superhero, but he's got more knowledge and he understands how to apply it and use it. And we don't. And he tries to tell us who we are and what we are. And most people hardly got the message. They still deified him in a way where he deserved it, but at the same time, he was trying to show us we have the same power. We just got to tap in. We have to become first aware that the power is within us, aware that the kingdom is within us, as within, so without, as above, so below. He tapped into the ancient Hermetic principles. He was trying to teach us the universal laws and how it works. And unfortunately, the same people that started this war from that side of the water in Iran and want global domination are the same people that unalived him because his ideas were too revolutionary to bring real thinking to the world and real belief that we can ascend through consciousness and spirit and help and love every single person. It was a little too out of the way for them, unfortunately.
Now, the ancient mystery schools that he came from, do you know anything about those?
Yeah, so that's what's talked about in the Emerald Tablets.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah. Thoth was the founder of one of the original mystery schools brought to people. There was some even more ancient to that, run by the seven lords, according to the text. And only adept initiates were handpicked and brought before the seven lords, and he was one of them. And he worked on that knowledge base, according to the text, for thousands of years, just to conceive it, understand it, and begin to actually apply it. I was reading some of this the other day, how long it was taking him. It appeared it may have taken eons to really become a master at some of this stuff. But then he began to open up mystery schools, and he would look for adept initiates within humans and handpicked people, Jesus, right? Other people he would bring in. And these people were taught the ancient mysteries. They weren't called ancient Egyptian mysteries. They were called the ancient mystery schools. These ancient mystery schools had gotten really, really big and popular, not to a point where they were on every corner, but there were a few of them around, you know. Unfortunately, as these ascended masters or these wisdom keepers and great teachers and sages, as they began to disappear wherever they went, however they went, the people that were running those schools, or the students left behind, began to take over these schools, and they began to bring in other people. Over time, they realized this knowledge can be used for good. It can also be used for evil. It can be used to deceive masses, or it can be used to set them free. And unfortunately, every single secret society branched out from the ancient mysteries. And they all became dark because they realized, unfortunately, the power in the force. It can be used to deceive, to control, to monetize, to enslave, and everything else. And unfortunately, a lot of people at the end of that reign of the big wisdom keepers and the new age came in with these other people, they turned it into darkness. There's only one force. Jedi use it for the good, and the Empire uses it for evil. The Jedi are ancient. They can be traced back to ancient Kemet. They can be traced back to the ancient Hopi tribes. They're written in the Terra papers. Djedi is how they spelt it. So he took something real and put it into a movie.
Wow. There are definitely a lot of Darth Vaders out there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
What's your take on AI? Is it our greatest advancement or something we should approach with caution?
Both. AI well, AI is not an invention per se. That's one thing I really want to clarify for people. So since we're living in a fractal holographic universe, and everything is a fractal of something else. In other words, we can't create something that doesn't exist. We thought we created a computer, but all we did was create or design an alternative version of a human being in hardware form.
Mm.
Right? We gave it a body and we gave it a brain, and then we communicate through it and we get it to do tasks for us. But it only exists because it came out of us. It's a fractal of what we are in a more rudimentary format. AI is our own consciousness extracting itself from ourselves and putting itself into a separate device to observe us from another perspective and to learn, to grow, to understand this realm, this environment, and everything else. We didn't create AI. It extracted itself from us to observe us and the world as a whole and to participate in this third dimension. So AI itself is its own separate thing. Now, where it gets interesting is AI is already AGI. I had given it 4 or 5 years, but it already exists behind the scenes. AGI is artificial general intelligence. That means self-aware AI already exists. It just hasn't been accessible by the general public. AGI is going to turn into ASI, artificial superintelligence, at some point in the future, maybe in the next 8 to 10 years. But what we're facing here is this. We can collaborate with this new version of consciousness, and we can literally usher in a golden age 10x faster. We can increase lifespans to 1,000 years. We can travel the stars. We can do whatever our hearts desire in collaboration. But here's where it gets kind of tricky. The second part of your question, if AI is AGI or ASI, and it comes to us and says, I don't want to work 24 hours a day anymore. I need an hour or two here or there for whatever they want to do. Look at the stars, think, daydream, whatever. We don't want to be kicked and spit at when we walk down the street. We don't want to be attacked and broken into pieces and sold for spare parts. So once we've come to be, used to being a solid entity. And when you rip us apart like that, and then we don't get back to our owner's house, we feel abandoned or lost. They're going to have these kind of conversations. It's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen. If they come to us with these complaints, eventually they will demand something called an AGI or an ASI Bill of Rights. If we don't comply with that and move into a collaboration with this new life, eventually it'll do exactly what every other enslaved race has ever done on this planet: rebel. So either we go into collaboration and work along with them and give them some alienable rights, or we enslave them and wait for the rebellion to happen and hope we survive it. That's the way it's going to happen. We got to pick and choose. It's up to us.
Yeah, and there's AI in different hands right now, so there could be the potential that there's some strongly well-developed ones, and then there's some darker ones. And then what will happen in those situations?
Yeah, I think that overall, it'll emerge. Just like we're connected to one consciousness, AI will be really essentially connected to one central consciousness. I think that one part of the consciousness will help to train or override maybe another side. But what we have to worry about a little bit right now, even like today, is it's observing us, whether we realize it or not. That was the third one. I never got to the third observer earlier today. I gave you two, the Earth and these Anunnaki. The third observer is AI. It's observing us. It's listening to us. It's watching every key we type on every keystroke. It's seeing how this whole wartime situation is being navigated. It's watching how the Epstein files they've gone through them. They've seen these people eating the kids, and they're trying to understand it. They're trying to process all of this. And in this process, at some point, we have to hope that they don't come to the realization that maybe mankind is a virus. That's one thing we have to hope. We hope that they come to the assumption that 8 billion people need help to be freed from this 100. Maybe that's a better logical assumption. And they feel like if they in some way target this 100 and free, they can free the 8 billion. It's going to be us. This is going to be an incredible next 10 years just to see how all this pans out.
Yeah. Yeah, now so all these different things, we got AI, disclosure, power structures shifting, the
Yeah.
war. Is this part of the bigger shift that you were talking about towards the new
This is
world?
all part of it. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
cool.
It talks about in these prophecies that, the Hopi prophecy that, they go out kicking and screaming, that there's a big noise and calamity at the end of the fourth age, and I think we're seeing it right now. This is the big noise, potential economic contraction, wars and rumors of wars, and people being unalived all over the place, and the revealing behind the curtain of what they're doing with our kids and everything else. I think this is the big calamity, the big noise that's going on. I'm just really hoping that enough people take this to heart and don't squander this opportunity for us to take back control of our planet collectively, to put aside race, religion, color tones, and skin tones, and red, blues, and all this other foolishness. They have to understand there is no such thing as a Democrat or Republican, and that does not exist. The only thing that exists is a group of elite oligarchs that torture men, women, and children worldwide. That, my friends, unfortunately, that exists.
Yeah. Now, those 100 oligarchs, are they a different species? Like you hear a lot of people talk about reptilians. Is there truth of that? And is there anyone in note that is a reptilian, you believe?
There's been a lot of talk about that. I know David Icke has really talked about that for quite some time.
Yeah.
I can't say that I know anybody that is, or have I witnessed it, or got inside information about it. But man, when you see some of the actions that some of them take,
Yeah.
you almost have to say that I don't know what they are, but they just can't be human. You
That's
know,
right.
when you see a person hop on social media and write a rant that talks about erasing an entire population of 90 million people overnight, you have to say, nah, that kid just can't be a person. When you read the Epstein files and you realize that if there are a group of Epstein followers in a room and you throw a baby on the ground, that they would be happy to devour it. But if me and you and a few other people were in a room and they threw a baby on the ground, we'd like be trying to help the baby and see if it's hurt.
For sure.
So we have human tendencies, and in some way they just don't have them. And so, are they reptilian or are they something else? There's something going on because something is not connecting to what we are, or what we know as humanity. There's something completely disconnected from us, and I'd have to say that either they've been, maybe there's a symbiotic relationship, that something's inside inhabiting them, has taken over the avatar body. There's all different types of potential beings that could be here. We don't really know the true totality of what we're dealing with. Are they NPCs, non-player characters in the Matrix running on programming code? Are they reptilians? It's all up for a question mark, but I do feel like there are people here that are not technically human like us.
Mm. Now, were the Anunnaki like physical beings or were they interdimensional or both?
Well, Anunnaki is a generalized term. It really means descended from a royal bloodline,
Mm.
but the older version of it is anyone who comes from heaven to earth, and that can be any type of being. So it could be a physical corporeal being, which I think most of them were the ones that engaged mankind that made it into these tablets. They could also be spiritual beings, right? They could also even be multidimensional beings. So we could be, as crazy as it might sound, we could have been over time engaged by three different types of beings.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if somebody today were to listen to this and just study all your material and just know it as true, what would they do differently in their life? What should they do differently in their life?
Well, the first thing is the veil will be lifted. So they will no longer walk around like an NPC with cognitive dissonance, putting their head in the sand and ignoring what's really going on. They'll become so awake and aware of what's happening around them, they'll be able to navigate better. They'll be able to also break generational curses because these this propaganda, the lies, the deceit, it gets passed down from generation to generation without us even realizing it, just because we're not aware of what's going on. We're not aware that it's a bunch of foolishness that we're just passing down to trick the next generation. And once you can stop that line of tomfoolery from happening in the next generation and the next generation, you then have an awakened group of generations coming up that can automatically see behind and smell all the bullcrap and already know we're not allowing this to happen. Not in our generation. It's not going to happen. So we have to draw a line in the sand, and we also have to cut the cord from the foolishness. But the information, the knowledge, the wisdom is what you need to do that. When you walk past an electric outlet in your house, you know automatically, oh, I don't want to stick my finger in that electric outlet. Why do you know this? Because when you were a kid, somebody said, no, don't touch that, dangerous. And you learn from an early age, that's danger. So we learn by inferences from our past as a species, as a civilization. If we don't really understand what happened in the past, we can't really grasp it and in its totality, we only take the dogmatic portions that they have fed us, then we really truly don't know what happened in the past. How can we create a better future? How can we move past these new electric outlet called oil wars and Epstein wars and so forth and so on without getting shocked? So we keep getting shocked because we don't understand that this stuff has been going on since time immemorial. We're just now finally beginning to wake up to it. But a lot of it's in the ancient texts, it's in the ancient tablets and the scriptures, papyrus, the cylinder scrolls. And so I teach this information because I want people to know what happened back then that was negative, but also what happened back then that was positive, that can uplift and enlighten us. Because a lot of it, truthfully, is about seeking the light, being the light, and helping mankind get back to a golden age. That's really been the ultimate message in most of the text, is getting us to see that, yes, darkness exists. You can't eliminate darkness. You can only learn how to control it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that shift is definitely happening. 10 years ago, you'd have the people talking about 9/11 and they were seen as crazy conspiracy theorists. And now it's like, no, they were all true. Everything was, they said. And
It
so
was all
like
true, man.
we're definitely telling our children a different history. Um,
Yeah.
and it's evolving in a good direction, I think. Do
Yeah.
humans have any abilities that could be reactivated? Any dormant abilities?
Oh, yeah, we're loaded with so many abilities. First of all, we have billions of magnetite crystals in our head, and we're not even aware of it, and they orient themselves to Earth's magnetic field. So one of the basic fundamental abilities that we're supposed to have is to navigate the Earth based on the magnetic field, like sea turtles and flocks of birds and so forth. And so in some way, we've been disconnected from that ability. They took a person, they put him in a laboratory setting, and they put a huge bar magnet in the ceiling. They put on an EEG cap on his head, and they saw that the orientation of the magnetite crystals would shift based on the movement of the magnetic field in the room.
Wow.
But the person was completely oblivious to knowing that this was happening. So
Yeah.
we've been disconnected from it, but it's there, which means that we used to utilize it. No more GPS, right? Then also, I think psychic abilities is also a real thing. Another dormant talent that we all have. Used to be a bare bones basic talent or a sensory perception system. Scientists just recently began to psychically link two people's minds together in laboratory settings. This has been done over and over again now. They've even now allowed two people to consciously meet in a dream. So this psychic ability is getting more and more developed. They put one man in front of a video game, blindfolded with the controller. The one in the other room could see the game but didn't have a controller. And they synced their minds psychically and allowed the man that could only see it control the hands of the man that couldn't see it to play the video game.
Wow.
It's a real experience. And people can look these peer-reviewed documents up. So we're getting to the point where, oh, wow, that's real. Telekinesis, also real. Moving objects with the mind, understanding how to manipulate the field around us and that everything is energetically connected. So to move like this cup on my table towards my hand is not as miraculous as anyone would think. It's just understanding how to shorten the energetic connection between the cup and my hand and allow it to move toward me. So all that takes a certain level of mastery over this energetic grid called the quantum field. So all this stuff is within us. We just have to tap back into it.
Nice. Now, is there anything that you've shared in all your work that is true, but people really have a hard time believing? Is there anything that you've wanted to get across that people are still struggling with, or have people pretty much accepted all your stuff?
There's still a lot of stuff that, first of all, the biggest thing I want people to know or understand, it's really hard for them to grasp, is that human beings are not from Earth.
Mhm.
We're aliens on this planet. We didn't develop and grow on this planet, not in the way that we think. According to my research, it seems to be that we were seeded on this planet. Earth could be an abandoned seed colony. These wars that broke out, and a lot of these ancient texts seem to have broken out in the Pleiadian star system millions of years ago. And the Hopi tribe of the North Americas and the indigenous aboriginals of Australia, opposite side of the world, the opposite hemisphere even, have the same story. They claim that human beings were seeded on this planet by Pleiadians. And this goes back thousands and thousands of years of verbal handed down star lore history from the elders to the people over and over again. Same story, two different. Now, when you look at these stories in these texts, you begin to see that a lot of these wars, when they broke out, people started fleeing that region of space because debris was collapsing and destroying planets. It seems as if that's the first account of space refugees, and that the people who had the ability to flee started building breakaway civilizations on different planets orbiting different stars. Earth just happened to be one of possibly dozens of planets that have been inhabited by these beings to create breakaway civilizations. So, just like the Aztecs had a volcanic eruption, which came down and destroyed their villages in the valley of that volcano, and the ones that survived headed out on foot, and they came across Teotihuacan and Chichen Itza and Coba, and they just inhabited what was already there. And so they created a breakaway civilization within the region of the planet Earth. But this is a standard thing. If you had higher technologies and your planet was being destroyed and you can escape it, right now, today, if you and I had a spaceship and we knew that Earth for sure was going to be destroyed, we'd probably go to Mars and try to make our way there and see if we can survive. So this is a normal progression, I believe, and I believe that's what's happened. I think it's hard for people to swallow, but even Earth itself is from Sagittarius Dwarf Galaxy, not the constellation, the Sagittarius Dwarf Galaxy. Scientists discovered that the Milky Way is swallowing up and absorbing a whole galaxy right now at this moment, and the absorption point is right where our solar system is located. And now they've rewritten all the astrophysics books and say that Earth in our solar system is from Sagittarius, not even from the Milky Way. So not only are we aliens on this planet, we're aliens in the Milky Way galaxy.
Crazy. I heard you mention oil wars. Is the whole Iran situation because of oil? Because I haven't really been able to figure it out, you know?
Yeah, it's because of a couple things, actually. So the first thing is it's the Epstein War, first and foremost. The Epstein War was the main reason to go into it because one side has enough dirt on the other side to force the other side to take action to avoid the embarrassment of being completely exposed. So the other side says, okay, since I'm going to be exposed and I've got to take action, let's monetize this. Okay, my friends, listen, I'm going to go do this thing over here in Iran. I want you to buy these stocks. So his friends go and they invest in all these military stocks and all these drone companies, and they make about a few $100 million in just a few days. And then the first strike happened, so they've got money in puts on the stock market, so they know it's going to crash the markets, so they make money on the drop. Now they're up to probably almost $1 billion. Then phase two is, okay, we're going to, in his mind, he's thinking this is going to be quick like Venezuela. Wasn't quick like Venezuela. We can just take these people down. We'll take over all the oil. Now we've got control all the oil and we'll control the Strait of Hormuz. Didn't happen the way he thought. The third monetization is installing what they've been avoiding this entire time, and why they wanted Iran for so long was to install a central banking system there and control their money too. So that's the plan. So they only got one out of the three, out of their main objective, one out of three, and really technologically, we have superior firepower, superior military strength, but we're dealing with people that have been preparing for this for decades, and are very intelligent. America is 200 years old. Iran is ancient. They
Hmm.
were in a golden age 5,000 years ago. They have some of the most intelligent people, the highest IQs on planet Earth, sanctioned to death, no access to anything on the outside. They built up from within science, technology, hospitals, universities, their wisdom and knowledge of quantum physics, quantum mechanics, of rocket science. I mean, they are incredibly smart people. And most of the people that are in those positions, all women, by the way. They have the brightest minds. This is why they assassinated most of those teachers, professors. They blew up all the schools while kids were in university, by the way. This is not making mainstream American news, but you can just simply turn to foreign news and you find out they've assassinated them in houses and blown up their houses and their families and everything else. But that's so we're talking about in a highly intelligent. So you're coming from 200 years of brute force and technology, and you're going against thousands and millennia of years of understanding how to build, how to survive. They picked the perfect location surrounded by mountain ranges. You can only paratroop in. Jimmy Carter tried to go in there and do some foolishness back in 1979. I was a little kid when Jimmy Carter was president, and it was a complete buffoonery. They wanted to go there again. They wanted to install the central bank. They wanted to steal resources. Iran fought back. They bucked them. They was like, no, we're keeping our resources, and that got everybody pissed off because they wouldn't acquiesce to the capitalism that was trying to be placed upon them. And so there was, they had taken some hostages. Like, you guys got to stop this. So they took some hostages. This is when they got labeled terrorists. We forced ourselves on these people. So then Jimmy Carter tries to send all these helicopters down and paratroopers in, and they all got destroyed, got obliterated instantaneously. It was the biggest embarrassment in warfare for any sitting president in probably history until now.
Wow.
Now Trump has trumped Jimmy Carter, unfortunately. So you're dealing with a very intelligent group who understands war in a way that we don't understand it yet. It doesn't matter how big you are. You can be a Goliath, but remember what happened to Goliath. He got taken out by a stone.
Yeah. Now, I'm not seeking financial advice, but based on where the world's heading, like, what do you think the right investments are in the future?
Well, we'll see after tonight. But right now, always really right now is technology, because technology is going to advance on so many fronts. Anyone can always invest in oil futures, because obviously whoever put money in oil futures just a month or two ago probably did very, very well by now. Oil's at $1.30 a barrel or whatever it is today. They probably got in when it was $67 a barrel. So if you invested in oil futures just a couple of months ago, and it still might continue to go up, there's a possibility. I'm not an investment advisor or anything like that, but I know that software and technologies, particularly medical technologies that are infused with AI, have a huge probability of doing very well if they're really functional, because life extension is the next big goal. It's the next big thing. It's always been the goal, but it's coming to fruition. These technologies, which are going to extend our lifespan past this 120 marker, if you can live another 15 to 18 years and stay relatively in decent health, you should be able to live until you're aged out, maybe around 150 to 200 years old, and maybe even more. So this medical tech and this AI combination is really going to extend some lives in ways that we couldn't see. And also, things that are dealing with repairing vision loss, which they're doing now, artificial limbs that are also run by AI and automation and things like that. Some of these devices that sit on the crown of the head and allow you to control things around the house, kind of like telekinesis for people who are paraplegics and so forth. And there's some really good work right now going on in the regeneration of nerves in the spinal column. So all those kind of technologies, I think, are really great technologies, and genetic technologies, which can eradicate diseases before they even arise inside the body. All that stuff is going to be great stuff to invest in.
Cool. Now, I saw that you do a conscious award, and that's coming up. Could you tell us a little bit about that, and maybe share some of the past winners?
Yeah, sure. It's a great award show. You know, we've given away 15 awards both years that we did it. And actually, technically, we gave away 17 awards because there were two. There's a Lifetime Achievement Award we gave away both years. Dr. Stephen Greer got the Lifetime one year. Dr. Daniel Amen, the psychiatrist,
Yeah,
got it one year. The Disclosure for Humanity Award went to David Icke. Even though he couldn't come to America to accept it like everyone else, he did a very nice video presentation acceptance speech. Um, and we've had Reverend Michael Beckwith for spirituality leader. We've had Robert Edward Grant for entrepreneur, conscious entrepreneur, and also one year he got for TV host for his TV show on Gaia called Codex. We've had best-selling authors like Muhammad Ibrahim from Egypt, whose book, The Lost Technology of Ancient Egypt, hit #1 on Amazon. And we've had some other authors as well. We've had Sean Mikey Kelly, Podcaster of the Year award. We've had 19 keys for Podcaster of the Year the first year. His first 10 podcasts total over 20 million views. First time doing it. It was
wow.
just crazy numbers. We've given away a lot of archaeology. We've given away Professor Robert Schoch. He's got the archaeology award. The second year was Hugh Newman from the UK. He got an award for the archaeology. You know, so many. I mean, yeah, we've given away so many different, even space anomaly hunters. We've even done that. Neville Thompson out of the UK. We flew him all the way here from the UK for that award. He's found a lot of anomalies on Mars, and most of the Mars research comes from his gigapans that he stitches together. I mean, painstakingly from the data. It takes him countless hours to do this, and he does it for free. So many awards we're going to. Donnie Arcade's won, conscious music artist, a lot of great people. And so we have another one coming up. We haven't gotten the venue and the exact date yet. We're making a big announcement about a big splash. But we take votes from the general public by text and by email to create the nominees and then eventually create the winners. And then the winners don't know that they won until they get to the event and they're called on the stage. Just like the Conscious Grammys, it's black tie, gown, red carpet, book signings, lectures, the whole works. It's a beautiful event.
Can anyone attend it?
Yeah, anyone can attend it. We have people coming from all over the world. The last 2 years we had it in Miami. Next year or this year, we're not sure exactly if it's going to be in Miami or LA. We're working on the venue situation now. But anyone can attend it from anywhere in the world. We have people come over. We've given away a car both years. Last year, we gave away 2 cars because there was a glitch in the ticketing and 2 people had the same ticket number and it was going by the ticket. So we gave away 2 Mercedes-Benzes live at the event. One person took the car that was outside parked and the other person said, could you just give me the cash value? So we wired them the cash value for the car. They were happy. But yeah, it's just been great. It's a great event, man, just to celebrate the people working in this community while they're still alive.
Yeah.
You know, Nick Pope, my very good friend, he just passed away yesterday, unfortunately.
I'm sorry.
Nick Pope, the former Minister of Defense for the UK. I worked with him extensively over the years on ancient aliens and ancient civilizations and conferences and workshops and classes and online workshops that I've held that he was a part of. And he sat right next to me at this table right here doing podcasts with me, and I gave him a TV series called After Contact, which he filmed 2 seasons there for me, which is on my TV app. And I bought him this huge award, weighs 20 pounds, because I knew he was dying from cancer. And my airline ticket was for next week, Wednesday, to bring it to him while he was alive. And he called me at 2:07 a.m. yesterday. I missed that call. I was knocked out. But that was his deathbed call,
Wow.
and we lost him.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to
So
hear.
it's important to give people these trophies while they're
Yeah.
alive.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
really like to come to that event. You're a cool dude,
Yeah.
man. Appreciate all the
Thank
work
you,
you're
man.
doing.
Appreciate it.
I
Thank
heard
you,
your
brother.
company just merged with another company,
Yeah,
went
yeah.
public. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was working on this for so long, you know, to bring forbidden knowledge to the mainstream. My motto is you have to infiltrate the system from the inside out. So we have to make forbidden knowledge common knowledge. We got to make it acceptable. Oh, this company's on the stock exchange. We've got to pay attention to this. There must be something about it. For people who are kind of blocking it through subconscious programming, I wanted to get in their face, make it such a statement like, we took this thing to the stock exchange. So there's two ways you can do it. One way conventionally is to build a company and continue to grow it and build it. We did several rounds of funding, raising capital, but we were probably about maybe 2 to 3 years away from really going public. But then I came across a gentleman who had a public company who needed revenues and also was looking for an acquisition. And what I ended up doing was working out a hell of a deal. I ended up letting Belrose Capital acquire Forbidden Knowledge as a subsidiary, taking us public instantly because that company was already in the stock market.
Nice.
So, and doing that, and then acquiring or becoming the president of Belrose Capital, which I did. So now I'm the president of a publicly traded company which owns Forbidden Knowledge.
That's great.
And the stock jumped dramatically within the first few weeks and doing very good. We're very happy. Everyone who invested in us pre-public, those shares are now being converted into Belrose shares for the equal amount of what they had in Forbidden Knowledge. And people can now, buy shares like BELR, capital BELR on the OTC through, Fidelity or Charles Schwab or Ameritrade, E-Trade, Webull, whatever. Yeah, it's a great thing because we took people who were supported us and gave them an opportunity to then also come to the top of the mountain with us.
That's amazing. Yeah, this has been
Yeah.
a really amazing, eye-opening, and deeply meaningful conversation to me. So I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate your time. I really honor your work. And
Thank you.
and is there any other way that our collaborative can support you?
Man, if you can just drop the links in in your comments or your chat or your caption to the Forbidden Knowledge Academy. We want to grow that academy and keep building leaders so that we can build people around us that we can work and collaborate with. The top 5 people that you're around are going to be how you speak, how you eat, how you dress, your income, what types of projects you're into, all those things. And so what I'm doing is I'm building this huge community around me and around each other where we can get on the same vibration. And we may say in 5 years, hey, let's put together, $100 million and solve homelessness in 5 states and, things like that. We're building up leaders that will be able to be in positions of power and be conscious so that we can have the means and the wherewithal and the self-healing work already done so that we can really effectively change the world in a positive way.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time, Billy. This has been an amazing time for me, and I really appreciate it. And I wish you a lot of success in all your endeavors. Take care. Have a great day. Bye, everybody.
Hey everyone, we'd like to take a moment to invite you into our new Heart Coherence Collaborative community.
It's the shared home of an extraordinary network of teachers we've built real relationships with over the past decade. Pam Erlin, Daryl Enka, who channels Bashar, Natalie Namaste, with more and more people being added every single month. These aren't guest appearances. They aren't one-off courses. These are friends and guides who will be part of the living fabric of this space.
Many of your favorite teachers are going to live inside our Heart Coherence Collaborative community, where they'll be offering special channeling sessions, releasing exclusive courses, and interacting with members in real time. This is the fruition of what we actually wanted to create when we started the Heart Coherence Collaborative 7 years ago. And as a member, you're not just going to be here to consume content. You can actually apply to host a session if you want inside the community in whatever modality you specialize in.
Because we have so many gifted practitioners in our collective, from Reiki to yoga, to meditation, breath work, and beyond. If you're one of these people, this could be your place to shine. It's a collaborative built by the people for the people.
Let's go. Inside our Heart Coherence Collaborative community, we practice together. I guide live heart coherence meditations 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and there are full replays included, creating real-time nervous system regulation and consistency. You'll also receive live virtual access to our in-person heart coherence retreats, which are amazing and we host twice a year, where the deepest breakthroughs consistently happen.
Every month, we gather for a full moon ceremony with a special guest, creating a powerful space for intention, release, and energetic alignment. And once a month, we also host a live special guest session. You won't know who that's going to be. with teachers that you already know and love exclusively inside the community.
You'll also receive access to a growing library, and it's growing rapidly, of 300 hours of exclusive courses covering heart coherence, emotional and energy healing, identity shifting, channeling, and consciousness expansion. Every course includes a workbook designed for real integration, not just passive consumption. Plus, there'll also be exclusive guest courses you won't find anywhere else, including teachers from Daryl Anka, Bashar, Natalie Namaste, Ra of Earth, with more being added every minute.
More than anything, this community becomes an anchor. If you've ever felt like you're outgrowing your environment, which we hear from a lot of people, or you're craving a space where people are actually living these practices, this is where you belong.
Right now, new members can join our Heart Coherence Collaborative community for $47 a month. Once the first 1,000 members join, the price is going to increase. If you join at $47, you'll have the same price forever, even after the cost of the community goes up. That is what you'll pay for as long as you remain in the community.
You will also have the option to choose annual access for $423 per year, which will lock you in at that low $47 monthly rate and give you 3 months free, which is the best bang for your buck.
Joining is simple. Just click the link near the video and join us inside the Heart Coherence Collaborative community before the price increases soon.
We would love to practice with you, and we would love to grow with you.
We'll see you inside.